More than 3,100 runners assemble at the starting line under a slate gray sky, their breath white in the frigid morning air. Whereas at most races, there's a range of clothing, a mix of sports bras, tanks, tees, and long sleeve shirts, and all lengths of shorts and pants, these athletes are uniformly kitted out in their warmest gear with no bare skin to be seen. The high temperature for the day won't come for another 8 hours. When it does, it will be 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Fortunately, this isn't a freak weather event. All of the runners and spectators knew what they were signing up for when they put this race on the calendar. It is December in northern Maine, after all. And today's race marks the 10-year anniversary of the first Millinocket Marathon held on December 12th, 2015, to provide a boon to an area especially hit hard by the 2008 financial crisis. In this episode, I sit down with founder, race director, and native Mainer Gary Allen to hear all about this cult favorite marathon. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. It is Fueled Friday, which means that today's episode is sponsored by Fuel Goods, my go-to source for all my running nutrition needs. I have been a subscriber to their Runner Box for years now, and it is my absolute favorite way to discover new brands, products, and flavors that I otherwise may have never tried. I just received the December-January box, and it is filled with products that make cold weather running a little more enjoyable. There's like 10 or 12 products in there, but I will show y'all 3 for now. So most of the time for breakfast before a run, I just eat a quick energy bar out of convenience, but having a hot breakfast when it is cold outside just hits differently. So I got this oatmeal cup from Modern Oats in Goji Blueberry, which has 54 grams of carbs, which makes it the perfect pre-run fuel. And then for the run itself, I got this ear-warming headband with the Fuel Goods logo, which is the perfect weight for the colder days we have here in Texas. When it's like 40 degrees or so, my head quickly overheats if I wear a full-on beanie, but it's still too chilly to keep my ears exposed, so I cannot wait to try this one out. And then finally, I received this bath soak from Muscle Rehab, which will be the perfect thing to use next time I get home from a long, hilly run in the cold. And again, I don't live anywhere with sub-zero temperatures, but a 2 or 3 hour run in 40-degree weather still gets you pretty chilly. So I'm excited to try that one out as well. If you are looking for a last-minute gift, I cannot recommend the Runner Box subscription from Fuel Goods enough. I will put a link to check them out in the episode description, and you can use my code Hillary10 to save $10 off your first box. Now, speaking of wintry weather, let's head up to Maine for today's episode. An hour north of Bangor and less than 10 miles west of Interstate 95 sits the town of Millinocket, population 4,104. Lying in the shadow of Mount Katahdin and surrounded by lakes and forests, Millinocket's natural beauty is breathtaking all year long, making its emerging status as a tourism hotspot understandable. But that focus only came after the closure in 2008 of the area's largest employer, the Great Northern Paper Company Mill, which for more than a century had run 24/7 and was a global powerhouse in its industry. The mill's closing was devastating to Millinocket and the surrounding area. In the years since, it has been able to pivot to tourism and other income sources, one being the annual race created by one of the Pine Tree State's most passionate advocates. Though he was born in California, Gary Allen is a 12th generation Mainer who grew up on an island off its coast. An accomplished runner since junior high school, he is the founder of Crow Athletics Running Club and a longtime race organizer. In 2015, he created the Millinocket Marathon in an effort to give the town a much-needed economic boost. Though figures vary, the race is estimated to have brought in more than $3 million in revenue over the past decade. Though the race registration is free, entrants are encouraged to donate what they can and to spend as freely as they are able during the weekend of the event, when Millinocket's population is doubled. Run entirely by volunteers, the Millinocket Marathon endeavors to embrace community spirit and live by the motto, "Don't run Millinocket for what you get, Run Millinocket for what you give. And with those inspiring words, let's go ahead and welcome Gary Allen to Today in Running History. All right, I am here with Gary Allen, the founder and race director for the Millinocket Marathon. How are you doing today, Gary?
I'm doing really good, Hillary, and I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, how is it in Maine right now? Because it's terrible. It's terrible here in the South, and I'm just fantasizing about being somewhere nicer like that.
It's beautiful bluebird day, and maybe temperatures in the 70s, which is pretty warm for here, honestly. But we're surrounded by cold ocean water, so it never really gets very hot here. The water's always in maybe the high 50s this time of year, so it's like a giant air conditioner. So we never really get very hot.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, before we get into the race specifics, tell us a little bit about your background. Are you native to Maine? What did your relationship look like with running before this race?
Um, I am native to Maine. The island I'm on is called Great Cranberry Island. We're out about 2.5 miles out in the Atlantic Ocean. The only way to get here is by boat. Uh,
Wow.
it's kind of a crazy place to ever become a long distance runner because the main road is only 2 miles long. And I have documented running for many decades on that road, over 75,000 miles on this 2 mile road. So many trips back and forth over the years. And, gradually became a pretty good marathon runner. At current count, I've run 103 marathons and not the speediest person in the world, but at the sort of height of my running, I was able to run 6 minute miles for the marathon distance, so that was pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah. So, but I think one personal statistic I'm really happy about is I've shown a lot of longevity. So I've run a sub 3 hour marathon in 5 consecutive decades,
Wow.
which is kind of a cool stat. So I think I like to tell people when they say, "What do you attribute that to?" I was like, steady like our main island tides, and just you train your body to run 6:52 pace all day, and then you can in competition. So, but anyway, this is where I grew up. I went to a one-room school here on the island. It's a very small, beautiful place, mostly rocky beaches and cold water and community. So, and then I started the Mount Desert Island Marathon. This will be our 22nd year from scratch. Um, I've always been interested in running races and then creating them as well. So I started the Mount Desert Island Marathon, and our first running was in 2002. And I just felt like we needed something on Mount Desert Island, which is home to Acadia National Park, and created a really good event. I was inspired maybe by the Boston Marathon, which I've run 24 times, uh,
Wow.
um, to make a point-to-point marathon through um, several distinct towns and villages here on the island. And much like the Boston route, goes through a lot of different towns on the way to from Hopkinton to Boston. We go from Bar Harbor to Southwest Harbor, sort of going all the way across Mount Desert Island. So I started that. It's become really successful. But I think one of the things we want to talk about today is the Millinocket Marathon.
Yeah.
And this will be our 10th year coming up this year. That again was started by me, and it was a sort of innocent start in that I was just so I remember distinctly sitting at my keyboard reading some news articles from Maine, and I was reading about the Katahdin region, which is where the Appalachian Trail ends. Mount Katahdin is the northern end of the Appalachian Trail, and there's a little mill town called Millinocket, which is the nearest town to that mountain. Um, and they were known over many decades for making paper because it's a heavily forested part of the world, and so all those papers made out of wood starts out as wood, and so the paper industry was booming for years and years up there. Well, the mills closed a few years ago, and the town really fell. fell hard from, losing their major employer. And I just was reading an article about all the hardships that had occurred when the major employer went away, and thought, well, I can't just read that. I have to try to do something. So I guess my one of the things I'm good at is um, empowering people and activating people, maybe through running or other events. So I said, I'm going to create a marathon up there. And I didn't really know what kind of a marathon I was going to produce or anything like that. But I knew it couldn't be a further burden on the region because they were already strained. And so I came up with this idea to make a free marathon, which, you know, my my partner that we produced the Mount Zion Marathon. We have a business called Run Maine that produces that marathon. Mary was like, "How are you going to hold a free marathon, and how are you going to pay for it?" And I said, "I don't know. We'll figure it out." And so we the first year we sort of showed up with 2 weeks notice,
Wow.
and there were about 52 of us after that were willing to go up and run either a marathon or a half marathon. And I hadn't even driven the route. I literally had never really even been to that region of Maine. I just showed up unannounced and said to people, let's just go run a marathon. This is the first year. We call it the flash mob year. And you guys spend money. Just go run and spend money because they really need it. And we had 52 people that showed up. And then Runner's World Magazine picked up the race as this kind of odd thing, and it went from 52 people to over 600 in year
Wow.
two. In year two, and now we, you know, regularly attract, upwards of 2,000 people and another probably 2,000 visitors and spectators and everything. And it's a big, big thing in the region, and we've kept the free thing. Um, and we've added in the past few years we've made optional donations if you want to make a donation, and we collect those and then donate 100% of those donations to local and nonprofit organizations up there. So we've kept it free, and if people want to pitch in, they can.
That's
Um,
incredible.
and it's just it's kind of I mean, running is running, but this has wild energy. Like the logging community sets up our finish line with loaded log trucks and logging equipment, and they do all this sort of spontaneously in the spirit of giving that we sort of showed up with, and it's we run. It's a 2 lap race, 13 miles, 13.1 miles for 1 lap, and the second lap to make it a marathon. And a good portion of each lap is on this fabled road called the Golden Road, which runs from this town all the way to the Quebec border. Almost 100 miles of logging road that was built to move the logs out of the deep woods to turn them into paper. So we run on that road, and I've had some old timers in that region say, you know, this road once had piles of logs on both sides of the road, almost like running through a canyon, almost like driving through a canyon. And it was just, thousands and thousands of logs stacked there waiting to be turned into paper. And we've shown them photos, and they've all the townspeople go out and watch the marathon, and literally the width of Golden Road is not a sea of runners going out there, and they can't believe it that we attract that many people to their town. And in the spirit of the event, people come and they spend generously, and they you know we really try to activate them and get people to do something, and it's worked over the years. Yeah.
That's amazing. That sounds so cool. Let's go back to that first race. So you website says glorified flash mob. You mentioned the flash mob portion as well. What did things like the starting line, the finish line, was this self-supported or were there any aid stations? What did that look like that year?
Year one, we started. very close to, the course wasn't certified the first year. And we just marked the map out on our devices and said, I don't know, we'll start here and we'll finish there. Um, when we got it certified, it changed by a few feet, but not
Sure.
much. And, um, and there were no aid stations at all. I remember giving each runner a little piece of paper that told them turn by turn instructions where the course went. So they would carry almost a map. Um, and I don't know, I, I think honestly, if you're well trained, you can run pretty far without water. I think sometimes you see people with hydration vests running a 5K, and you're like, how, you really need 2 liters of water to run 5K. I had an annual tradition for years where I would run the Boston Marathon course on New Year's Day, and I did that 10 New Years in a row, and I would run the whole Boston Marathon route without water, and I was pretty thirsty when I got to Boston, but your body can go, long time without fluids. So the first Millinocket Marathon, we just sort of ran, and I remember coming around in lap one and back where we started, and somebody handed me a baked potato, like an apple. And I was like, of course, somebody's handing you something, you take it. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, okay, I got a baked potato, which actually seemed really good. It was carbohydrates. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is better than Power Gel. So I just started eating this baked potato like an apple. And I was thinking, this is actually really good, but I think I might choke to death without something to
Yeah, that's
wash
what
it.
I was about to say. Like
It was
running with
really
no
dry.
water
It was
is one
really dry,
thing. Eating a
but
potato with no water is a whole is a whole other thing.
while you're running is, yeah, it's really, yeah. So, um, I don't know. It was like kind of this crazy flash mob thing, and then there's a lady out there now that still is out there after year 10 that did hand out some bottles of water. Laura was out there, and I think she handed me a little Poland Spring bottle, and that would have been about mile 19 on the second lap, and that tasted pretty good. The water was good at
Oh,
that
I'm
point.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what made you decide to put this in December? Because it is cold where y'all are, and I live in San Antonio, so our main race is in December, and it's beautiful. It'll be maybe 40s when the race starts, and
Mhm.
50s, 60s when we finish, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
Y'all have snow on the ground. I've seen the picture of the guy with the icicles in his beard. What made you decide on December?
Well, I'm a very spontaneous person, and I read about the hardships of the region. Um, and I read about the hardships of the region around Thanksgiving time. And so for year one, it's just because I read an article and I said, okay, we're going to do a marathon in, a couple weeks from now. So in year one, it was just the time of year that I read the article, and I didn't want to plan it for a year. I wanted to go run and make a difference. And so we ran the first year was actually very spring-like. I think I wore like a singlet, and it was actually really warm, but we've had single digit temperatures. I think the coldest event was below 10 degrees at the start, and people were just bundled up. I remember a lady came all the way from Jamaica, and she'd never seen snow in her life, and she was just amazed. But she was like, I think I might freeze to death. And I said, you won't freeze to death. You just need to layer up and just keep moving, and you'll be fine. And so I think that running in the cold and running on ice and all that, I think it's all part of the lure. And honestly, I think if we did it any other time of year, we wouldn't draw that many people. I think people love the significant the reason why we're running, and that it's so bizarre. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, because you're looking at this giant mountain covered in snow that looks like something out of the Himalayas, snow, and you're kind of like, it doesn't even make sense that you're running and looking at something so beautiful, but also so bitterly cold up there. But that, I think the cold of the event, you know, is overshadowed by the warmth of why we're there, maybe. Yeah,
I love
it's
that.
amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
That is so cool. And that's crazy that someone came all the way that she had never seen snow and that, you go from no snow in your life to running a marathon in it. That just blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just runners, we are a peculiar bunch and we
That's
love
true.
to run and we just it's sort of where we get our creative juices flowing. It's where we feel the most alive. It's where, and so, coming from being a competitor first and then a race organizer second, it just makes me, feel the same way I was when I was really competing hard to produce really good events. So, I often tell people if the race committee is wearing suits and ties, you should maybe think about running another race. I think the best races generally have runners or people with running background um, in their sort of personal resume, whereas business people trying to put on marathons, not so good, not so good. Always, yeah,
Y- Yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
yeah.
Now, in the 10 years, so as of the day that this airs, the 2025 Millinocket Marathon will have just happened. So out of those races, how have things changed over the years, and what is something that has not changed?
Well, the region has changed. For sure. The town was really feeling like it felt like they'd been knocked down on their knees. And I've seen the town just in 10 years rise up a lot. There's still a lot of work to be done. And the more good things that happen in the town, it just sort of is self-fulfilling. The more good things that happen, the more good things um, that spontaneously happened. So I think the Millinocket Marathon sort of was a almost a renaissance moment for parts of the region, like tourism, for example. Um, I think it changed the minds that tourism is not a bad thing. And I like to say that not all tourism is, oh, let's drive around and look at a tree or a rock or a sunset. Let's actually participate. Like participation tourism is real, and I think we we proved our point loud and clear. So I think we maybe changed a few minds that attracting people that are there to make a difference is a good attraction. So, and then things that have changed with the marathon, the town has really embraced it. We couldn't do it without the town, and I wouldn't even want to try. We have loggers bringing, their logging equipment and proudly setting up the finish line the way they want, and it's all done sort of organically, and these are some of the kindest, hardest working people you ever met, and they set up our finish line with all their logging equipment. But more inspiring to me is out on the Golden Road, especially, is how many spontaneous acts of kindness there are out on Golden Road. Like the community is out there in force, and they, have everything from barbecues to oyster bars to there might be some adult beverages being served out on Golden Road. There's it's literally a party, and I like if a runner that's listening to this can imagine eating oysters at a water stop in a marathon, probably the first thing they would say is, "Oh my God, I would never want to do that." But so many of them line up and can't. I mean, it's a race filled with laughter and unusual things happening. Maybe some people come to race hard, but more people come to participate, and they're not as hung up on running a fast time. I mean, you always have those types that want to run really fast, but we have a lot of people come just to give back and not focus on their splits, so to speak. Yeah.
And do you have a podium? Do you have medals, things
We
like
we
that?
we have met. So again, we offer the basic structure of the race, meaning we have a certified course, we have a start and a finish line. We we sort of activate the community, but more importantly, we activate participants to help us create the race of their dreams. And whereas if you pay an entry fee, you expect A, B, and C to happen, and you will be upset if it doesn't. We tell them if you want something to happen during the race, organize it. And so we don't even always know what's going to happen during the race. So I think that our message seems to be hitting home, and people, more and more people, come and organize real water stops or directional signs. Or now there's a in year one, and for certain in year one it wasn't there. Maybe it started in year two, but probably year three. Each mile is marked by artwork, community or civic minded artwork, like mile marker, 20 might have this cool mechanical, you know, device set out there with a big, number 20 painted nearby. And it's like there's artwork and there's structural things marking each mile. So a lot of people love to see all that. And then just the municipal departments, and the town leaders embracing it so warmly and really opening their hearts and their streets to this annual thing that has really gotten bigger than we ever imagined. And for me as a race organizer, I would, longevity, in life and in marathoning is important. But in marathoning, I really, right now, maybe I'm help steering the ship, but eventually I'll, won't be steering the ship. It's far more important for me to create something that will keep going in the region long after I'm maybe not even on Earth. So I'm always trying to train the community. Well, this is what we do, and this is how to do it, and so that this can be like the Boston Marathon and go on for. The Boston Marathon is over 120 years old now, and because they created something really magical, and incidentally, Millinocket is called the Magic City, because it sprang up from nothing, in the very early 1900s. When they discovered all those trees and wanted to make paper. So you know we want the marathon to be the Magic City. So I think that you know we want the marathon to go on and on and on. Yeah. So the marathon has just gotten more refined. We do have a podium. We don't charge an entry fee, so giving people medals would take away from the cost. But we do supply medals, which are optionally purchased directly from the runners, and local craftsmen make them in Millinocket.
Oh, how
So we're
cool.
we're, we're helping the economy there, and runners that want to have a medal, and who wouldn't, because it's in the spirit of giving, purchase medals. The same crafter makes our podium awards, and so we do an award ceremony on the boxes with those, and we do some really cool, innovative things to sort of make it feel like a real race, but it's a very real race, but also something like no one has seen. Yeah.
That is such a cool concept. Do you do the same with t-shirts?
T-shirts are all, we don't supply them at all. They're all, there's a big artisan craft fair prior to the race, and we want people, allow free use of our logos, and we encourage people to make, merch and make things using the official race logo. And so, and it, incidentally, the race is just before the holiday season, before Christmas. So we feel like that people are more in a more generous mood. We encourage people, if they're purchasing a medal, to purchase two and gift one to somebody that may not have ordered one, and or gift some to someone, to a child that might be there watching, or something like that. And so what we do is we just try to try to really activate people and get people sort of in the spirit of giving. And I think the proximity to the holidays helps. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool that you have so many local people are able to use that logo and create something. That's really unique and I love that. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, Looking at the 10-year anniversary coming up, what is something that you are the most excited about?
Well, I'm always excited. I mean, when I first strolled into Millinocket in the Katahdin region, nobody knew who I was really, and I feel like it's almost home for me. I mean, so many people know me up there now, and as you maybe can tell, rather colorful. I think my hair and my shirt probably almost match today. So,
That's great.
and so yeah, and that's always been me. But it's never really about me. I just, I like people. I'm a people person, and I just feel so welcome there. And people know we're trying really hard to make a difference and fill the town with good energy. And I'm always in the mood for fun, and I've always lived a fun life and always will. And I try to bring that to Millinocket and keep it real. And I think that you know sometimes when I'm talking to the logging type people, they think, well, you're just this long distance runner guy. You don't really know too much about, woods and things like that. And then we get talking, and I say, well, yeah, I built my house on Cranberry Island where I'm standing now, and I cut trees down. I built my house by hand from trees. Like I cut the trees down and built my house from standing timber. So, and I think when the loggers start hearing that kind of stuff, and I show them a picture or two, they're like, they can't really believe it. They're sort of like, wow, yeah, okay, you do know a lot about trees and chainsaws and things like that. And they know that I'm down here in the ocean too, which is a different environment. But my knowledge of the deep Maine woods in that part of the world, and I keep wanting the loggers to take me on a log, on the logging truck, all the way to Quebec sometime, and they will. All I got to do is be up there at the right time of year, and they will. I want to just do that ride with them and see what that's like. But I think I just love the marathon season in the Katahdin region is it really is the spirit of almost Christmas, for a week, as opposed to just one day. It's a really fun time.
That's incredible. Now, obviously, a lot of people travel to this race. Let's talk about what those logistics look like. Where can people fly in? Where do most people who are running the race stay? What does that look like?
Well, people say every lodging establishment in the Katahdin region is booked fully, usually a year in advance. So people, when they leave after they run the race, they usually rebook their accommodation for the following year at that time. So it's booked. There are wait lists for bookings, and then the surrounding towns, all the way from up in Aroostook County. Holton is way up in Aroostook County, and another big town is Bangor, which has a international airport. Um, there's a lot of lodging opportunities there. Bangor is about an hour away from Millinocket, so a lot of people stay there and then just drive in race morning. Um, we've helped create a lot of cottage industry in the Katahdin region. I think when we first got up there, the notion of an Airbnb was very minimal, if at all. And now there's a lot of people have spaces which they list, with Airbnb and things like that. Again, to capture that, the people that are looking for places to stay. But runners are creative. I think everyone that wants to come finds a way to do it. And you know, we have people that fly into Boston and then they want to drive all the way up to really see, Massachusetts and New Hampshire and then a good chunk of Maine. So we have people flying into Boston, flying into Bangor primarily, or driving from long distances. We have people, you know, I don't know that anyone's ever driven from San Antonio, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there's a lot of people from all over the country. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, I won't take up too much of your time. Are you running this year? Do you continue to run the race as race director?
I personally, Hillary, don't think that a race organizer should, because it's not about us. I
Sure.
think that race organizers shouldn't be running races we direct. I think you need to focus on making sure the race goes the way you want it, and it's not a showcase to show off your abilities or non-abilities. I think that it's not really about a time to compete. However, once once in my career, I did. We once had an ultra marathon here on the island I'm on, and again, it's 2 miles long. So we did a 50K, and for the final edition of that, I broke the golden rule and ran, knowing it was the final edition, and I even told people this goes against my nature to even be out here competing, and if anything goes wrong, I will stop because again, where it's a 2 mile road, I ran by the finish line every 2 miles, so I could sort of look at my staff and my race crew, and they could give me the thumbs up, everything's fine, keep going, or I certainly would if something needed me, I would have stopped. So that was a fun time to sort of break the rule, but generally, no, I don't think I will be running the Millinocket Marathon or the Mount Desert Island Marathon.
That
And
makes sense.
for your viewers that might want to learn more about this event, or for listeners, if you just type in runmillinocket.com or run MDI, as in Mount Desert Island, runmdi.com, you can learn about both races.
Awesome. And I will make sure to include both of those in the episode description as well.
Cool.
All right. So last question, since you're not running that one, what is next in your running goals or as far as races coming up that you will be running?
I'm signed up to run the New York City Marathon.
Ooh,
That'll be my 19th one of those. Um, I have no time goals at all.
yeah,
I, I would, I always go in with multiple goals, sort of an A goal, a B goal, C goal. C goal is always finish, get across
yeah,
the finish line
of
first,
course.
and then sort of, when I was at the peak of it, the A goal was, either under 3 hours or below 3:10 or something like that. But I think you pigeonhole yourself by saying, I'm fit, it's all or nothing, blah, blah, blah. And I think it adds more weight than you need in a marathon. I think that generally go in realizing you're only human, and some days you can hurt really well and get through a lot of that pain, and some days you can. And so if you have multiple goals, it takes pressure off you.
Yeah, absolutely. And New York City is such a great one. I ran it last year and it's such a good one to take that pressure off, the time pressure, and really enjoy the atmosphere of the race. And it sounds like your race there is a similar thing as well, that there's so much to see and take in beyond just what's going
Right.
on the time clock. So
Right. Well, yes, the New York City Marathon's what inspired me to start the Mountain Desert Iron Marathon. I was just sort of like, when I grow up, I want to be like Fred LeBeau and start a marathon. And so, I first thought of that and ended up doing it with Mount Desert Island, and then the Millinocket Marathon was another random thought. So I guess typically when I think up things, there's a very good chance it will happen, because I don't know. It's like, I think that if you think of something and you think it's a good idea, why not do it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love
Cool.
that. Well, Gary, thank you so much for your time today. Can't
Sure.
wait to watch the 2025 event unfold, and then I would love to be out there one of these years to run it
I hope
myself.
I hope you do come, or just come to Maine
Yeah,
and just come visit this island, and you can run back and forth on the island and check it out. It's a pretty good place.
perfect. Sounds
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
What an awesome conversation. And honestly, I kind of think I want to go run this race next year. I will put a link in the episode description so that y'all can check out the Millinocket Marathon and support Gary's awesome grassroots endeavor while challenging yourself and having a great experience. That is all I have for today's episode. Thank y'all so much for listening, and to Gary Allen for being today's guest. Once again, it is Fueled Friday, and listeners of the pod can save $10 off your first month of your runner box by using my code Hillary10 at checkout. Please make sure to like this episode, subscribe to the show, rate it 5 stars, turn on alerts, send this episode to someone crazy enough to come run a winter marathon in northern Maine with you, and then tune in next time for a much warmer conversation with the winner of the 1975 Honolulu Marathon. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and this has been Today in Running History. Intro music is here. Cool. With the Fuel Goods logo, which is, did I put that on? Okay, I did put it on straight. I didn't even pay attention, so it's gonna be upside down. Okay, let's try that again. The Mills clothing. We're just gonna start again. Clothing. Also, did I fix my hair after I took that stupid thing off my ears? Okay. Ooh. And accomplished. Though the my God. And then here's the interview. Oh, hi, Gary. Hey, I live in Maine. It's cold here. Oh, wow. Okay, there we go.